Chris, Alfred, Paperboy, Miles. Please give it up for Brian Tyree Henry. He is the creator, the executive producer, the writer, the director, the executive music producer, the star, playing earned marks. Please welcome Donald Glover. And now for our moderator. She is an award-winning radio personality from Brooklyn, New York. She is 1/3 of the top-rated syndicated show, The Breakfast Club, and has interviewed everyone from Drake to Eminem to Jay-Z. Please welcome Angela Yee.
All right. Check, check. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right, well, first of all, let's give it up for those first 2 episodes. All right, so for Donald Glover, obviously this has been a pet project for you for the past over 2 years. So what was the importance of you setting this in Atlanta?
I just knew it already. Like, it just felt like a good, I don't know, it felt like a good place to examine, like, America. Like, I felt like it was, like, you know, has, like, a lot of specific things that, like, are just interesting. Like, it's, like, 60% black, like, 1 man for every 4 women, like, 2nd largest gay population. Like, there's so many things in it that I was like, oh, this is, like, actually, like, a really, like, fertile place to talk about just America.
And this is also semi-autobiographical for you.
I feel like people say that,
yeah,
and I'm
it's been
like,
said, and I'm like, I don't know what part of your life.
he lives in Atlanta. Like, I guess, like, that's about it. I mean, it's not really, I never really tried to make it like my life. Like, I don't think, like, Ern's not quite like me, like, or it's just like, I guess it has to do with music, so people feel like that, but I wouldn't say it's like art.
Okay, now for Zasi, you play his love interest slash best friend slash baby mama on here. Now let's talk about how complicated your relationship is, because you are holding him down, but at the same time you're dating other people.
Yes. I think what we've talked about a lot is that they just really like each other, and that in a way I feel like I'm one of the very few people that actually understands Ern, and he actually understands me. And you know, even though maybe our interests or what he feels like is a priority or necessity doesn't line up necessarily with what I think, we still we keep finding each other again and grounding each other again.
As the season goes on, we get like, you start to realize like, you start to realize like where you're like, I think like we become like, you start to see like why we like each other a lot more. I think like in the first 2 episodes it's kind of hard. You're kind of like, you don't understand, I think early, but then like, like they were connected in a weird way. You start to see like, oh, like they like each other, and like they can't find like a lot of people like each other.
Yeah.
But at least they feel that way, but it kind of changes. Like it's a complicated relationship, but like I think like episode 6 and episode 8.
8 definitely.
8 definitely like.
Which was a big change because that was added.
Yeah.
Like have us sort of come together.
Yeah, we changed like the end. Like we kept rewriting that. That was like Janixa directed that episode, and like we kept like going over it. It's definitely written the first half, and we were trying to figure out like the ending of it just needed something, and then I was like, oh, like yeah, like your character. I think you brought that up. You're like, oh, she chooses like love over that, which I was like, that's perfect. Like,
You think your character sees the potential in him?
Oh yeah. I mean, Ern is a bad person. He's a good person, and I feel like there's a reason we ended up together, and maybe that got a little bit lost.
we didn't get really a chance to date.
Yeah, and like a kid.
Yeah, because
Because we talked about that we had like met sort of quickly, and it was nice, and then life just sort of happened, and we weren't able to actually figure out what our kinks and our like broke personalities where.
In the third episode, you kind of see they talk about like this happiness and like really, I think that's a dynamic that you kind of see a lot like with like men and women a lot, where it's like, well, I like this is like my process for happiness, and it's like, well, this is my process for happiness, and like I want to do this until like I feel comfortable with this, and I think like that kind of like causes a lot of, especially for us, like a lot of problems. Because like it just is processing like how a person really finds their own happiness. You sometimes you go different ways, but like when you have a child involved, it becomes a little more complicated.
And then also within our relationship, like in episode 6, I talk about my value, and that sort of like becomes a theme, and like for some women what that means, and for others what that means.
Now for Brian, aka Paperboy, I'm sure all of you guys can relate to this. First of all, how hard is it to find somebody that you trust to manage and work with you, and how hard is it to work with family?
Well, I'm gonna start with the last one first. Never work with your family. Never work with them. And I guess like finding manager. I mean, don't managers kind of find you? You kind of trying to find that fit. That's someone who knows what you like, who you are, and they can see the potential in you. And that's the thing that I find great about Ern and Alfred is that we grew up together with cousins, and at the same time, who knows me better than he does, you know?
But at the same time, he didn't come to you until he was popping already.
He did not, and isn't that what family does? What family does, and it's like you want to be there to lift them up, and there's nothing greater than when someone sees potential in you that you didn't see in yourself, and when they really go that mile to be like, you know what, I think you deserve to have this, you should have this. I mean, I want to be in on it too, but that I think that is kind of the dynamic that Ern and Alfred have. It's just that he sees something in me that I didn't really see in myself. But at the same time, I'm gonna keep his ass in check. Like,
Right.
hey, so I think that's the good dichotomy that we have for each other.
Now, how much does Paperboy really want to be a star? Because it doesn't seem like he's going real hard at it. It seems like he's very content to smoke weed all day.
But let's think about hip hop though. Like, how often do they change what they're doing? Like, it doesn't really I think hip hop is one of the greatest art forms because at the end of the day, they never have to change exactly who they are. I mean, you can be from anywhere, look how you want to. It's just like, do you have a story that you're telling? Is it something that's really going to talk to the people? Like, you can really come from where you really come from and not worry about that. So I like that, especially in Atlanta. So I love that Paperboy doesn't want to change that. And I mean, I'm sure as the season progresses, you start to see how he starts smelling himself a little bit. But it's that whole concept of what fame does. Like how many times can you let people get in? I mean, you saw it. Like, let me put your hand on your chest. Let me put my hand on your chest. You weren't even feeling me a minute ago. Now it's like, okay. So I think it's good to have Ern around to traverse that because throughout the season, he's constantly reminding me of like, hey, don't forget the paper. Hey, don't forget what we're doing. Don't forget what is really important. And I think that's why it's so great that it's family as well.
Now, when you guys got locked up, I was like, this is going to be great for your career.
You did say that. You did say that.
Do you think that's true in real life? Like when something happens and an artist gets involved in something and gets locked up or gets involved in a shootout, do you think that actually, depending on the type of music they do, is beneficial?
Not anymore. Not anymore. Like, I feel like if it was like 1998 or 2000, like Arista would be like, yeah, we'll pay for Bobby Schmurder to be out, but now it's like that's too expensive. Like, rappers are making enough money for us to bail all of you out, right? Like, that's really how it is. Like,
and it's amazing what social media does for that.
Yeah.
It's like, if you didn't know, like, social media makes it so accessible to know every moment and every minute of these people's lives that you wouldn't necessarily know. Like, I was like, there's so many beefs in 1 month that I don't know. I was like, so who's Drake beefing with now? Who hates? Like, it's amazing how it's accessible to get into somebody's personal lives.
Yeah, I think people live like that, live it a lot more. Like, it feels like it happens in a weird, like, real time. Like, we're finding out about like Kodak Black like in real time, which is like very very strange, like to like sit, to be like, oh, like he's like.
He's getting out. No, he's
Oh,
not.
he's not, guys. Like, he's still like his lawyer said, like it's very weird. Like, but I mean that's like the state of like hip hop. I guess. Like,
Is Paperboy based on anybody real? Did you take from different artists?
we just wanted like Steven, actually the dude who made the Paperboy beat is here, chemist over there. Like
Very passionate.
my brother who wrote the episode also rapped as Paperboy, right? Like Steven. He was in the cut low key. But he like, we just kind of me and Steven talked about like we wanted to base him off of just like what, like kind of like Atlanta like hood like icons were like to us when we were growing up, like people who we thought were just like cool, but also look like when like Gucci first came out and like I guess like also kind of crossed with like Dobie, who's not from Atlanta, but like I just like that like polo fresh kind of look, which I was like, it just feels like the freshest nigga in like the country. Like I felt like that was like cool. Like I felt like I wanted him to be like a dude who's just like, yeah, like I have a really dope polo. Like and then like I feel like throughout, like hopefully throughout the seasons, like you'll start to see like how it starts, like his fashion taste sort of changes, like the more he gets around and like sees other stuff. But early, I was like, yeah, it should be like kind of like Young Cheesy, Gucci Mane, like early days.
So does that mean we'll see some special guest appearances, being that it's Atlanta?
Yeah, you get some. Like you get a couple. Like I didn't want to like we didn't want to bring a bunch of people in because like I felt like it might feel like Entourage, like in a bad way. Like I feel like Entourage is like fun, but like I didn't want it to feel like we were just like throwing people. But we definitely have like people in there. Migos are in like the 3rd episode.
Now, would you bring Van around Paperboy into the concerts? Is that something that she needs to be around and see?
They don't fuck with
We don't fuck with each other.
We didn't have a single.
Not one scene together.
Yeah.
You guys have one.
It's like one scene, but it's
Which
like
is
we're not
on
in
the
the same. We're on
phone.
the phone.
We're not in the
Which is
same
crazy.